Now, I want to introduce probably our most courageous presenter at this point in the conference, because most of what she was going to say got covered already. But here she is, Anandi Gray.
Thank you. Did everybody get some grapes? Because that's part of the presentation. So if you didn't get grapes, come on up. Or Rose, I'll just have Rose pass them out. Raise your hand. And do not eat them.
Right? I ate my grapes.
You didn't. I'm shocked.
I have grapes. Sean, do you have any grape seeds?
Okay. But please look at them and enjoy them. I'm going to stand over here.
My grape is coming. I know. Well, I didn't know if it meant anything.
Okay, thanks. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Anandi Gray, and I was teaching at Ananda College, and before that at Southern Oregon University. And I'm also a psychotherapist, so I have a huge interest in psychology. And when the college closed temporarily, it's about to reincarnate if you haven't heard, but when it closed in December, I had several months off. And I got to do research, which is actually one of my favorite things to do. And one of our tools of maturity is a hot topic in the field of psychology. So I did a lot of research on that, and I found I kept looking at it and going, gee whiz, this is really cool. And I thought it'd be useful information to share that you can use as teachers, and that your parents would want to know about. And when you're trying to, and your students too, and when you're trying to explain EFL to someone who's not familiar with it, that you can use some of this information. And also, hopefully, I very much hope that you can use this information in the classroom too. So I'm going to be presenting some very current research on tools of maturity, and we're going to focus on one in particular. And it is true, as Nitai said, Vidyut's fabulous presentation. He presented a lot of research, and there went part of my plan for this afternoon. And then following that was another wonderful group exercise, and there went another part of my presentation. And then after lunch, Irene threw away my coffee, and it became really like the worst day of my life. And I also want to begin with a story, because I was really impressed by, it's been just such a wonderful conference so far. And I was really impressed by some of the comments that were made. And I wanted to share this story with you that I heard just recently from one of the graduates from the whole EFL school system, and it's Anna Preston, who is the first and possibly only student who started in preschool with EFL and went through college and graduated from Ananda College. She did have a 3-year break at Lewis and Clark, which is a spectacular school with a fabulous reputation, and then she chose to transfer into Ananda College her senior year. So Ananda, by the way, gets credit for my PowerPoint. So when it looks nice and the graphics are great, it's Anna's credit. So as she was helping me with this, she shared some of her own experience as a child growing up in the village. And she's now 27 years old, so you can go back about 20 years or so. And she said, you know, I never learned how to meditate the whole time I was in the EFL school system. And I think in college that hopefully changed, but might not have. And she said she was talking with some of her friends who went through the EFL school system too, and they were all kind of talking about it. And she said we had time to meditate, and we would have wonderful visualizations and so on. She had many wonderful experiences, she described, but she said, we never learned techniques. And she said, you know how hard it is to sit there when you don't have techniques and you're trying to meditate. It's like, woohoo. And I thought that's relevant to us as teachers, and I know Kamran's doing some very cool stuff at the school now. But the reason why she didn't learn how to meditate, part of it is our generation of teachers, we didn't want to push our beliefs, our spiritual beliefs on the younger generation, so we held back. But maybe we held back a little too much. And I think the research that you saw from Vidyut, and hopefully some of the research I'm going to share with you, is going to motivate all of us in all our schools to bring it forth. It's like, whew, the time is now. Let's integrate this into part of our classroom. So, and please feel free to ask questions as we go along. Okay, here's some gee whiz, I call it gee whiz information. And this is from this article, which I hope all of you have a copy of it and will really read it, because it has fabulous research and it's beautifully written. So I did the research and Nitai wrote it. So here's a question. How can EFL students compare so well with elite academic schools? And so think about that, and then give me an example of an answer that's going to appeal to a parent and to a left-brain person. How does your school compare with elite academic schools? Let alone you say it compares well. How? Prove it. Okay.
Because when you present information in a way that children can readily and easily receive it, they get it more completely and it sticks with more depth.
Yeah, it sticks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Who else had a hand up? Yeah.
Students are relaxed, they can absorb more quickly, more.
Yes, they're relaxed. Huge, the effect of stress. You talked about this one. It's a huge, huge topic we'll talk more about. Anybody else? Yeah.
Something that's more measurable that a lot of the outside schools look at. We have higher reading levels, and we also have more school days.
Oh, interesting.
Out of most all of the private schools and all the public schools in our area.
Yeah. What was that first thing you said? You have higher You have higher reading. That's hugely important to be able to say something like that. We have higher reading levels, and then you can be more specific. So,
This was in the schools in our area.
yeah. What area is that?
Beaverton.
Yeah, yeah. I love that area. So, and here's some other ways. Now you can tell me if I'm right or wrong afterwards, but if it's a big error, jump in sooner. When the EFL high school here had to do standardized testing, partly for accreditation, I think this was in 2005, and perhaps since, this school scored in standardized tests in the top 10% nationwide. That's huge. Any parent would love to hear that. Any teacher can be proud to say that our school system is producing this. And on one occasion, the EFL high school scored in the top 1% nationwide. It couldn't score any higher. That's remarkable, something to be proud of. Another thing, SAT scores are impressively higher when they were looking at the EFL high school, almost 200 points higher compared to the national average. That's phenomenal. So the national average is 1,500. The EFL high school students, it was 1691, something like that. It was phenomenally higher. So, how do our tools of maturity support making all this happen? And they very much do. So we're taking sort of a soft science, so to speak, body, feeling, will, intellect, sort of a bit soft. And then we're bringing in sort of what's the current research saying. And it's only recently that we can measure these things. Although our educational system is based on ancient tradition. Let's talk about body. So I'm going to give you from the National Academy of Sciences, huge research body of the top researchers located in Washington, D.C. So using the body tool of maturity, physical activity during the school day shows a positive relationship to academic performance. We include a large amount of games and physical activity during the school day. Yes, yes. Time spent engaged in physical activity is related to a healthier body and a healthier mind. So much more could be said about that. But mentally and psychologically, physical activity is hugely important. That this is, of course, this is all based on many, many, many studies. State-mandated testing has the unintended consequence of reducing opportunities for children to be physically active. So in the schools where there's a lot of emphasis on, study, study, study for the test, it's having unintended consequences, reduced physical activity, reduced benefits of physical activity on body and mind. Finally, little evidence supports the notion that more time spent on a subject matter translates into better test scores. So all that study, 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 all that left brain approach, all that rote memorization is not translating into better test scores. Little evidence supports that. So that's a bit about research on the tool of maturity, the body. And now feeling. So the next bit of information I'm going to share with you is from hundreds of studies on well over 300,000 students, and all of this has been published in scientific journals and so on. Social and emotional learning improves students' academic performance. So when you help students with feeling, with social and emotional intelligence, their writing scores go up, their reading scores go up, et cetera, et cetera. Social and emotional learning does not detract from academic performance. So for the naysayers who say, oh yeah, your kids might be happy, but what are they learning? And Helen told me in the Palo Alto area school, she said, it is a fact that parents will take children out of the schools. They think, your kids are too happy, my kids are too happy, what could they possibly be learning? So I checked that with her yesterday. I said, really, do parents say that? She said, we hear it a lot. So now, information that can be shared with parents and students, and it's good to know for yourself. Appreciate what you're doing. Social and emotional learning increases students' performance on standardized tests and grades. So not only does cultivating feeling, the tool of maturity feeling in students, it doesn't detract, but it's also increasing academic performance on standardized tests and grades. And social and emotional learning increased academic performance 11 to 17 percentile points. That's a lot. That's not a little bit, that's a lot. It makes a huge difference. So just a quick look at the value benefits of the tool of maturity of feeling as expressed through the research data, things you can share with others. Let's look at will. So this is one of our college students, Kayla, and when we were at the meditation retreat. So this is the tool this is a hot topic in psychology right now, willpower. This book, by the way, is written by a Stanford University psychologist. She she collected over 300 studies. She did all the hard work. I just read the book and took notes, and I'm sharing a lot of that with you right now. But it's a fabulous book, and it's in bestseller list. It's enormously popular. The Willpower Instinct by Kelly McGonigal. Professor McGonigal. Yeah. Okay. So looking at all these over 300 studies, let's take a look at the tool of maturity, the will. And this is sort of a summary that she gave. People who have better control of their People who have better control of their attention, emotions, and actions are better off. They're happier and healthier. Their relationships are more satisfying and last longer. She mentioned in marriage, it's even strong will, strong self-control is even more important than empathy. It's more important than I know what you're feeling. It's more important to have some self-control when your partner is melting down. But it's also true with friendships. And there's one other study, I couldn't find it so I didn't include it. The children who score higher in will are more popular. And there is a test, there's a test of self-control, a quiz that you can use with your students if you want to. I can get that for you if you like. They make more money and go further in their careers. They're better able to manage stress, deal with conflict, and overcome adversity. They live longer. Self-control is a better predictor of academic success than IQ. It's a strong determinant of effective leadership, and more important for marital harmony than empathy. And so you see some value. It's funny, the wisdom of the ages, you look at it, and they didn't say we had all these scientific studies. They just said this is the wisdom of the ages. See if it's useful. But, I grew up on the East Coast. I'm kind of an intellect-oriented person. My mind wants these facts. And when we can share this kind of information with others, it helps them understand on a deeper level the value of EFL. The next sentence, I think, is the most important, and we're going to spend more time with it because we're all practice this together. We can train ourselves to have more willpower. So willpower, they say, is like a muscle. Use it or lose it. You can fatigue it and sometimes need to give it a rest. But for the most part, every one of us has far more willpower than we think we do. And there's many stories about that, superb athletes and so on. So we're going to do some exercises to have more willpower. And these are things that you can do with your students in the classroom and give you ideas for more things that you can do in the classroom. Oh, by the way, so if you have a sheet, I'd like everyone to have a sheet of paper. Just draw a line down the middle. Yeah, you're not handing it in. So any scratch paper will be fine. So on the left side of the sheet of paper, write things I'm already doing. Left side, things I'm already doing. And on the right side of the sheet of paper, write things I'd like to try. And hopefully at the end, you will have written some things on there. We can just exchange a few more ideas. I know that you've been building towards this throughout the whole conference, and maybe we'll just add more. So here's a definition of will. A definition, I don't know if there's a single solitary definition. Will is the ability to do what really matters, even when it's difficult. It's the ability to do what really matters, even when it's difficult. Here's, during a lull in my research, when I just couldn't do a single thing more, I went to the thesaurus in the library and copied down every synonym for will. Here they are. Have you ever run into people who don't like the word will or willpower?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's because they associate it with forcing others to do something rather than self-control.
Yes, yeah, sort of that grinding, rajasic. But there's a sattvic use of willpower too. And then the tamasic use. Alarm goes off at 5 a.m. or whatever, and you just turn it off. So nice list of synonyms. It's my passion. It's my heart's desire. It's my wish, my resolve, my purpose. Okay. I'm going to skip that one for now. So I'm going to give you 13 exercises to strengthen your will. And while I do, I'd like you to participate with me, okay? And the first participation is, while I go through the 13 exercises, I'd like everyone to sit up straight. So that's your exercise 1 to begin with. Sit up straight. Take some intention. And then I have an exercise that involves a ball. Do I have a volunteer who would? I'm going to just pass it. Who else said I heard? Okay. So your exercise, both of you, is just squeeze that repeatedly until exhaustion, until you can't do it anymore. Okay. All right.
With just one hand?
Yes, just one hand. Yeah. That's zero. Okay. Use your non-dominant hand to open doors. Now, amazingly enough, there is a study on this, and researchers looked into it. So these are little things, right? But what happens when you use your non-dominant hand to open a door? You have to pause and think. And in that pause, wonderful things happen. You're choosing to do something that's a little bit more difficult. You're having some options. Something this simple is known to develop will. Think of, other things your kids could do. Use your non-dominant hand to brush your teeth. Yeah. Here's one. This would be a fun one. Say yes instead of yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Is it going to be possible to get a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm going to be writing on.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yes, I would be happy to send the PowerPoint
Okay, great.
to whoever wants it. Yeah. So that's kind of cool, huh? Say yes instead of yeah. Do not use contractions when you speak. Say I will not, instead of I'll or I won't. Create a small, little self-imposed deadline and meet it. So if you want to lift a 500-pound weight or a 100-pound weight, you don't start out with the 100-pound weight. You start out with the 10-pound weights and gradually work your way up. So you're strengthening your willpower, really pathways in the brain. You're strengthening those neural pathways in the brain by doing little things that help you exercise your will so that you can then go on and do the big things. Sit up straight. Stand. Oh, how you doing? Sitting up straight still? Keep sitting up straight. Squeeze a hand grip every day to exhaustion. Scientific study on this. It's incredible what they study in science. But the effects are powerful. We've already looked at a list of effects. Not swearing. Cut back on sweets. Keep track of your spending. Memorization. Memorize a poem or speech. That's a nice exercise in will. Create willpower traps. So a willpower trap is the grapes that everyone has. Is that exercises your won't power. So that's one way to develop will, is to be strong on the things I will not do. So you have something that looks attractive and it's organic and they're all washed and juicy and sweet. And you're exercising, I will not eat these. But you can in a moment. And, oh yeah, I have to just say one other thing. Because this author is from the Silicon Valley, some of her she calls them stations, won't power traps, or willpower traps. They're kind of reflective of that culture. I'll just say one. She said, put a martini station next to your exercise bike. And there is software. So here are two softwares. I think this is called software. You can send a message to your future self. This organization, futureme.org, You write a message to yourself in a year, in a week, in 5 years. I want to have graduated from college or run a marathon, whatever it might be. And this organization will send it back to you at a pre-assigned date. You just tell them when you want it emailed back, and they'll email it back to you then. It's accountability, which is something that helps with willpower, will. And then stick.com, you pay a fine. You enter in what your willpower goal is. Quit smoking. They have a whole list. It's kind of fun to look what people do. Quit smoking is big. And if you don't meet your goal, then you agree, you pre-commit to send a donation to your favorite organization. And then they have another version of that, which is you pre-commit to send a donation to an organization you really dislike. to really motivate. This was developed by a Yale economist, Ian Ayers. Yeah. 3 more good ways to strengthen will: meditate, rest and renew, what we would call relaxation or savasana, and breathe. So that's 15 ways, that list, list of 13 plus these. Which way do you think would be most effective? I'm just going to flip back and forth. That. Call it out. Meditate?
Of these 3?
Oh, of all 15.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, you're ready for the answer. So here I am reading this book, all the psychological research, and she gives all these create a willpower trap and squeeze a hand grip every day to exhaustion, all these things. And then she said, or you could do something a lot easier. She said you could meditate, and there's all kinds of studies about how meditation is, the benefits of meditation in terms of developing will. I'm going to just skip ahead. Everybody see this? Isn't that just a terrific picture? It's so realistic. This is from in the San Francisco School District or neighborhood called Visitation Valley, very at-risk school. They have a terrible time keeping teachers there, students and so on. And I'll tell you more about that in a bit. But first I want to say, this is such good news for us. Why being bad at meditation is good for developing will. So this is what happens. You sit to meditate, your mind wanders and you're thinking about what's for breakfast. And you bring it back and your mind wanders and you think about, I gotta change the oil in the car. And you bring it back and the mind wanders again. And you start to think, what's the matter with me, right? Okay, we're gonna change that on its head. Every time you bring the mind back, you are strengthening your power of concentration and will. You're exercising, you're strengthening that neural pathway. It's the process of bringing it back that strengthens and deepens will and strengthens and deepens meditation too. Isn't that good news? Isn't that I just love to hear that. Love this little kid there, this kid there, and this kid. Wow, incredible. Okay, done. This is that same. They did a 3-year study. Scroll up here. This was in San Francisco. The David Lynch Foundation funded this. They went in and taught them TM. They did a 3-year study, 3-year study, and this was about 4 or 5 years ago. It was a controlled study, very statistically well qualified. And I hope you know that regardless of the method of meditation technique, one is not more effective or better than another. It's kind of like saying my prayers are better because I pray in English, So this was a TM technique. In this school system, they meditated 20 minutes a day, twice a day, at their desks. At their desks. 20 minutes a day, twice a day. We just had a guest at the meditation retreat where I live now. And she was actually here not for an Ananda event. She was here to attend a storytelling conference down the road. And so she walks into the meditation retreat, and she has kind of a chip on her shoulder. She's, these meditators, what kind of trip are they going to put on me? I show her to her cabin, and she said, by the way, she's a teacher in San Francisco, and at her school they meditate 20 minutes twice a day. And I said, well, what's that like? And she said it completely changed the culture of the school, completely changed the environment of the school. They meditate at their desks. So, it kind of looks sloppy. It's messy. It's not pretty, but it's working really, really good. This is a picture of the teachers in their faculty room at that same school that I was just talking about. Teacher absences due to illness dropped 30% after 1 year of this program. Teacher turnover rate dropped to 0 after 3 years of this program. They called it the Quiet Time Program. Educators experienced significant reductions in depression, anxiety, anger, and fatigue, and a significant increase in emotional intelligence after just 4 months compared to a control group. Did you?
I have a question. Did they somebody come in and teach them meditation techniques?
Yes, yes. The TMers came in from Iowa, where they're big universities. They have a huge, that's their international headquarters, I think, or national of TM. And they brought a team in and trained the people in the school system.
This is daily meditation that the teachers and the students are practicing.
Yeah, the students practice in the classroom. I think the teachers are doing something in a different location. Yeah. Okay, so number one way to strengthen will, meditation. Okay, so will is like a muscle, and you can, if you exercise too much, what happens? You can injure yourself, yeah. So you can, all right, good job. So you can actually exercise your will too much, and you can kind of injure it. But what they say is, most of the time we're really just whining, okay? But there is that small percentage of the time when you've really you've blown it, you've overdone it, you've been rajasic in your approach to strengthen your will. So I'm going to share with you some major ways that you can weaken your willpower so you know not to do it and to tell your students not to do it too. Sleep deprivation. The later it gets at night, willpower. When do you eat those big bowls of ice cream or shopping on the home shopping network? 2 o'clock in the morning. Any kind of fatigue, poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. 7, motivating others by coming down hard or turning up the heat. Like, oh, I'm really going to make them, it's like that doesn't work.
Whose will is that weaken?
Okay, good point. When you come down hard on others, you are stressing them out so much that it weakens their will. Yeah, stress is a big thing. Self-condemnation, one of the 8 meannesses of the heart, otherwise known as guilt and shame, big willpower weakener. And stress. Stress is just huge and stress could be anything. You have students with problems at home. Maybe the parents aren't getting along, or they're not getting to sleep at a decent time. Okay. Let's go back. All right, let's do an exercise. So let's stand up. And work with a partner. So find your partner. Okay. Okay. So first,
Run this back. Did you
Yeah.
want us to do anything else?
well, if I have time, I want to ask you what that was like. So first, I'd like you to use your non-dominant hand and high five your partner. Now use your left hand to shake hands with your partner. Now, I'd like you to stand up straight for the next minute and choose person A in your group and person B. Okay, so person A, I would like you to talk to person B about anything. Don't use any contractions, and whenever you're in agreement, just say yes and not yeah. Okay? While you're standing up straight, and person B should be standing up straight also. So the whole thing's standing up straight. Go ahead.
Person B does anything?
Person B is just listening. We'll switch. Okay, are you still standing up straight? Okay, take a breath. And now we'll reverse. The opposite person does the talking. No contractions. Say yes instead of yeah. We'll do that for 30 seconds. Okay, good job. Take a breath. Okay, have a seat. I can't eat that. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just curious, did anyone have any willpower insights? Yes? Craig, you nodded. So,
Oh, I did.
You did.
I noticed that before I began speaking, I started with, I think it's just habitual. There it is again.
Yeah, Premi?
I was more aware of,
You're more aware.
I don't know how to say this, but I was aware of something in my brain.
Woohoo!
Something in my brain, which is the same thing that happened when I was doing all this with the Ronnie.
Yep. Something is happening in your brain. Neuronal pathways are being strengthened, and you went like this. Do you even really? You're just tapping your prefrontal cortex. It's like this is where it's happening in the brain. Yes, in the back.
I think some of the exercises are more are particular to a particular culture.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So there's all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I noticed that I had to be extremely aware of everything that was coming out and try to notice the areas that I naturally slip into. And I noticed that my body was reacting differently to my speech than it normally does.
Yeah. Yeah. Extremely aware is a good thing. That's a good thing. One more? Yeah, Sandy?
Yeah, I felt like my very elementary speaking.
Yes.
Very unnatural.
Oh, yes.
Choppy.
Yeah. Yeah. Premi?
Our eyes were open a lot bigger.
Rose?
I think we smiled more.
Oh, yeah.
Now when you say yes, we can't help
Yeah,
but
right.
smile.
Yeah. Yeah. It increases awareness.
I've been practicing this. When I speak with parents, I slow down, I give them better eye contact, and really pronounce things.
Mhm.
Try not to act hurried when they come to pick their children up, and just be more present.
Yeah.
So I have been practicing that. I just didn't know that.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you said that, because I think in so many ways you are exercising and developing the tools of maturity in your classroom in ways that you might not have even realized. So, like that.
Do you want to move on or not?
No, I want to hear what you had to
Yeah.
say.
So for me, when I do this exercise, I noticed fidgeting. I'm very physical. That's something that I notice about myself a lot. So it might be something that you notice in your children too, is that they'll have like little habits of moving their fingers or touching something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing for me as it's an unconscious habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so things that are unconscious become conscious. We increase our awareness.
Yes, I'm going to really try not to finger my mom or something like that. So I practice.
It'd be fun to practice on ourselves.
I found it stressful. And so I
Yes.
feel like the 3 things to concentrate more, I didn't really like it. So I'm just thinking of my, students, I don't know, but I wrote 3 things.
Yeah.
So, it's not real stressful.
It is
It
stress.
wasn't very comfortable.
Yes, it is not. Yeah, no, it's a really important point. So you were doing 3 things, 3 willpower. Look at that. It's kind of simple you would think, stand up straight, say yes instead of yeah, and don't use contractions. But it was stressful. And that is affecting our ability to exercise our willpower, just even that kind of low-level stress.
It was the first time I think I would have rather meditated.
Yeah, and it's a good example of why you want to start with small willpower exercises and build up, and not come down hard on yourself or on somebody else. It builds up stress, and that really undermines will.
As you were saying that, thinking about what she said, and the same thing, having to be so conscious as we were communicating, and it made me think in the classroom setting, if you're teaching something, because I could feel too, I couldn't so completely concentrate on what he was saying because I was busy trying to be attentive to these other things. And in the classroom, for me it was a good example of when there's stress, the mind is not free to take in, it's busy dealing with the stress. And thinking, yet another example of how important it is in the classroom to have a relaxed and open environment if we want learning to be enhanced.
Yes. And another example of the benefits of doing yoga postures, breathing, rest, relax, savasana, deep relaxation, progressive relaxation, however you want to, because it lowers our cortisol levels and therefore greatly reducing stress. Yeah. Okay. So we only have a few minutes left, and I just wanted to check in with our 2 volunteers who squeezed a ball to one of the exercise, one of the willpower developers. So you want to talk first about what was that like?
It was very difficult very quickly. But then I wanted to just keep going. So I found that there was like a long time that I could keep squeezing it even though the
Yeah.
I feel like that's where the willpower builds up, is that point where it's like, now you could stop, or you could not stop. And so I've just like tried to push it, do like 10 more. And that's something that I would do when I'm meditating too. So I'm like, I really want to stop meditating. So okay, I'll just say 10 more breaths, and then I'll stop. But then I'll check in after those 10 breaths. Maybe I can do 10 more. So that's what I was practicing.
Great.
My
Good.
arms are sore right now, but I got a massage.
Okay. Eric.
I think I started really strong also, and then I became aware that if I wanted to be able to keep going longer, I needed to modify a little bit to sustain. So I softened up a little bit, and I kept engaging with it, but not quite so intensely. I was also aware of that period of, I could stop now, but I don't need to necessarily, so I kept going for a while. And then I conscientiously decided that was enough for today, so that I don't have an extremely sore arm and neck tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
Great. And I think that's an example of choosing, so you're going at it really hard, and then you say, no, wait a minute, let me take a smaller step so that I have more endurance with this. So, and then you gradually work your way up to it. Yeah. Okay.
And then I switched to the other hand, so that was sort of balanced.
That's great. Okay. Let me just.
Just have a question. With the willpower and the physical, like I've had that happen a lot where I might be running or doing something, and it's my mind will just turn it off, or it makes the decision. It's like, okay, I can go, I can keep going, or no, this is way too much, I'm done, or I'll give it 10 more, and so to me it's like how that seems so fragile or something. It's like whatever mood you're in, you can go further with your willpower, or is there a way to just, I'm just thinking of like, say, those ultra athletes or whatever situation, how do you say, even though I want to say no, I'm going to keep going? I mean, it just seems so fragile.
That's a really good example, because that's exactly, there's stories, and there's one in here, about an ultra marathon or a marathoner, and she's saying, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. She's almost, been running on, and then she thought to herself, but I'm doing it, so I can do it. And so she kept on, and she completed her ultra marathon or her marathon. Yeah.
Because I think there's just so much thought involved in helping our will.
Yeah.
I was wondering if every time you accomplish one of your goals that could be bigger than maybe you think you can accomplish, if it boosts the next thing that you try to accomplish with willpower. So you can keep shooting for higher and making it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me, because the success of one strengthens you for the next bigger challenge, right? Plus the sense of assurance that comes with it. Yeah, confidence, yeah, just.
Can you bypass it? Yeah, when Kathy was talking, because I have a friend who used to do, ultra distance marathon running, and so 100-mile races and stuff. And he would say, I just don't think about it. He said, I get into a rhythm, and I'm just doing that. I don't think about whether I want to stop, what's going, when we would crew for him, we had to bring it to his attention. How are your feet? Do you need to change into new shoes? What's your stomach feeling like? Is it hard through the liquid? And he just, like he was not thinking about it. He was just going to another, I am running.
Yeah.
This is my feet. This is my rhythm for him. This is my rhythm.
Yeah, these are all examples of ways that people work with themselves to cultivate will.
Don't you just kind of, I know for myself, you just kind of get in your zone, and like, because I would do long distance swimming, and after a while, I think about 25 laps or whatever, your mind is like, I can't do this anymore. But but then it breaks through, and you don't even think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're at the end, and you're like, whoa.
So is that willpower then? It's beyond willpower.
It's like you're going above it.
So,
It's like an 8-hour meditation.
Yeah.
Where you want, and then you just doesn't.
I just want to say I appreciate all these questions, and I want to keep going. But in the interest of staying on time, I'm just going to come up with, we'll just conclude now, and I just want to do a review for a bit of a review. And I'm going to share with you, this is from the Journal of Personality. High self-control predicts good adjustment, less pathology, better grades, and interpersonal success. This is some of their conclusions. Better grades, higher GPA, less procrastination, higher self-acceptance. Am I? Yeah. Without inflated view of self. Interesting, huh? Better relationships and interpersonal skills. Better family cohesion, less family conflict. More conscientious, yet less perfectionistic. Optimal empathy, awareness of others' realities. More optimal emotional responses, less prone to wallow in personal distress, less angry and better management of anger, less shame yet more likely to assume responsibility for their actions, fewer impulse control problems, less binge eating and bulimia, less alcohol abuse, less depression and anxiety, less hostility, more emotional resilience. That is quite a tool of maturity, huh? Oh, yeah.
Unless it's not worth time in school.
Yeah, yeah.
Teacher, may we have our grades?
Yes, and you can have your grapes and memorize. We can train ourselves to have more. Okay.